So I was just starting to have a thought while you were talking about sort of getting to the end of the talk about the snake and the apple and so on. So what you're saying is the moment that Adam and Eve eat the apple, they become nervous or whatever. So that's awareness of their own vulnerability. So then, like you said, it's also awareness of their own capacity to do harm. So it's like when they are eating the apple, then that's them. Their immediate sort of nervous reaction is because they ate the apple and they kind of became evil in that moment or something like that. So
well, they woke up, and because they woke up and realized how they could be hurt, how they could and would be hurt over the upcoming, over time. It's the same as the discovery of the discovery of your own nakedness and the discovery of time are very, very similar phenomena.
Right.
I mean,
that also means it's the discovery of your ability to do harm.
sure, as soon as you know how you can be hurt. Well, you know, if you have to just consult your evil fantasies, it's like, what'll really hurt him? Oh yeah, that would work. It's like, how do you know that? Well, you just think about it. What would happen if that happened to me? That would hurt. Oh yeah, that'll work. It'll hurt him or her. And you know, you probably think that way twice a week or maybe twice a day. Jesus, every time you have an argument with someone, all you have to do is look at the back of your mind a little bit. You don't want to, that's for sure. But if you do, you'll see these sorts of thought processes generating constantly. It's like, you know, in a back and forth discussion, particularly with people you love, it's like you're always looking for a place to put the knife in.
So then it seems really similar to me, or it seems like they're kind of discovering the kind of like Jungian shadow within themselves, so that is the moment where it got introduced into the human spirit.
Sure.
And one of the things about the shadow is that it's also, when you integrate that, that's what makes you a substantial person.
Right.
So it's like, it seems to me that on one hand, well, it seems like this tragedy that Satan, the most evil, the father of evil, whatever, has introduced into people, but it also seems like without that shadow that people are kind of insubstantial. So
yeah, well, right. I mean, like I said that there's been a multitude of interpretations emerge as a consequence of that story. What was God up to? Was God in fact evil, the initial God? Like, why would he create a snake? Why would he put it in the garden? Why would there be these trees? What the hell is going on with the whole Satan thing? You know, it's very, very problematic. Well, we'll talk about it more. And this, again, is, let's call it speculation. Well, if you want to make something strong, you test it. And maybe if you want to make something ultimately strong, you test it ultimately. And I think that there's an aspect of being that has that element, is that human beings are tested ultimately. It's partly because we know good and evil now. And so that's the landscape in which we exist. So you could say the landscape is a cross. It's chaos and order, and it's good and evil. And we're stuck in the middle between those two things. It's a very common theme, by the way, in video games. Exactly that. Chaos, order, good, evil. It's the basic plot of endless video games. And that's perhaps because it's the basic plot. Well, those are the things we have to contend with. Well, I had a vision once. I shouldn't tell you this, but I will anyways. I had a vision once that I went to heaven, and I was put in a Roman amphitheater with Satan, just like Thor encountering the Hulk, right? That's coming up in that new Avengers movie. And so that was rather a shock, because I thought that was a hell of a thing to happen in heaven. And so I had this battle, and I won. And at the end, I came up to God and said, like, you know, what's with the whole Roman amphitheater thing there? It seemed like a bit over the top to me. I said, why would you put me in a ring with something like that? And he said, because I knew you could win. And you know, I don't know what to make of that. One thing I should make of it is I shouldn't tell you, but whatever. But you know, there's something to that in my estimation. It's like, do you protect the people you love, or do you try to make them strong?
So you think it's not that we have like Satan to thank for making us substantial, it's that God gave us Satan in order to make us substantial.
Well, I'd hesitate to say that, because you know it's so cut and dried. But I would say that that's a strong underlying theme in the biblical narrative. Yes. Now, it's certainly not the only theme. It's not the only interpretation by any stretch of the imagination, but there is something there. And there's something there, you know, at the end, we didn't talk about this. God puts up this flaming sword and these cherubim to keep you away from the tree of life. It's like, it seemed, if paradise and immortality are the promised land, then what's with the whole flaming angel and sword thing? We could have just had the damn fruit 5,000 years ago and not bothered with the problem. Well, it seems to me that there's something like, I don't know what it is, consciousness through tragedy, clarity through suffering, maybe something like that. Or maybe the perfection that lurks as a potential in the future is something that has to be earned rather than given. Maybe it has no value without free choice. Maybe we have to distinguish between good and evil now that we have the capacity to actually apprehend them. Maybe that's what life is about. Maybe that's the separating of the wheat from the chaff. See, that's the idea in Revelation, right? Because when Christ comes back in the book of Revelation, he divides the damned from the saved. And the saved are the people who lived in Logos, roughly speaking, and the damned are those who don't. And so there's this idea that there's this dynamic that underlies experience that is in fact that sorting. Now, I don't know what to make of that at all, but that's the story. But what I can make of that is that I can't put a lever underneath the argument that I just made tonight about the relationship between the development of vision, the snake, the fruit, nakedness, time, the future, work, and most importantly, the emergence of evil. That seems to me to be, I cannot find a way to undermine that argument. It seems, I can't break it, and that's what I'm always looking for when I'm trying to formulate ideas. I'm trying to look for something that no matter how hard I try, I cannot break, and I can't break that set of ideas. Now, what the full implication is of that set of ideas, God only knows, right? But I could say also practically, you know, one of the things that I've observed is that lies and deception destroy people's lives. And when they start telling the truth and acting it out, things get a lot better. Got to stop.